90 years ago, the Virginia Farm Bureau made our local farmers a promise to protect and preserve a way of life they worked so hard to establish. Today, our insurance agents work to protect all Virginians, not just farmers. We want to keep Virginia, Virginia. More information is at farmbureauadvantage.com.
The remarkable soybean. From its oil, we get products like ink, candles, and paint. From its meal, we get a high-protein fiber used in foods and animal feeds. Natural soy is replacing chemicals and products you use every day. You can learn more about soybeans at vasoybean.com.
Dairy farming is a major component of our agricultural economy in Virginia. It is a complex business with numerous challenges. So what are some of the trends we're seeing on the dairy farm? That'll be our focus on Ag Insights later in the program. We also have a story on continued growth with apple cider. Plus, we have some tips on farmscaping techniques in your vegetable garden. Those stories and more on this episode of Virginia Farming. I'm Jeff Isham. Virginia's cider industry continues to grow, as we learn in this feature report from Sherry McKinney.
Hard cider is not new in Virginia. The bubbly tart beverage has been fermented since our founding fathers were around. With the current strong public interest in farm-based beverages, cider making is experiencing a revival.
Virginia has an orcharding history, but also tends to produce really highly flavored apples, which are fantastic for cider because you don't care what the apples look like in cider, you just care about the flavor.
There was just one Virginia hard cidery a decade ago. Today, more than 20 are producing the delicious crisp beverage. In 2011, Castle Hill Cidery in Albemarle County was the third cidery to begin bottling. The land where the cidery sits has been a working farm since 1764, and U.S. presidents and many other dignitaries have visited here. Castle Hill Estate was the first orchard in Albemarle County to plant the historic Albemarle Pippin apple. Those same apples are used in some of its hard ciders today. It's the blend of these heirloom apple varieties that give each cider its unique flavor.
It's a fruit. It's just like wine. So when you taste wine, you taste the complexities of wine. And cider has the same thing. X number of years ago when we started 2010, these other cideries started earlier, is finding quality apples, is defining these heritage type of apples to produce because they just weren't out there. And it can't just grow them overnight.
Most Virginia cideries purchase apples from other growers in the state as well as grow cider apples on their property. The wide variety of flavor is what draws hard cider fans back for more each year. Most cideries also have an on-site tasting room, making them perfect destinations for a weekend trip to the country.
We get a really big mix. People on our cider club, many are local, but some are people who stop by and want to stay in touch and stay connected with the cider. I mean, I definitely think a lot of our customers are interested in agriculture and in the connection between the land and their food, and it sort of, you know, having a sense of the land really producing food and drink more than just kind of a sense that it comes out of a factory.
The demand for Virginia cider is growing as fast as the apple trees dotting the countryside, and more cideries are coming online. A new one in Norton in the former coal fields of Southwest Virginia will have a production facility and restaurant at the site of a former auto dealership. The cidery will not only create jobs, but will increase demand for fresh, locally grown Virginia apples.
These apples are available and are excellent quality within Virginia. And we can have these on site in a very short time. There's no worries about extended transportation, which could hurt freshness of the product. So the closer we can get these apples to us, the better. We are picky what we're looking for, but Virginia has lots to offer. We can get the quality we need and have it closer to home.
The Sugar Hill Cidery is receiving almost $500,000 in grant money from the Virginia Agriculture and Forestry Industries Development Fund to help open its doors. It's an investment by the state of Virginia into a business that has roots and has tremendous growth potential for the region.
I think it's going to mean a lot economically to Norton because we're going to be bringing in dozens of jobs In addition to the increased traffic we're hoping to bring to the town with our cider and our food, we're just really hoping to add to that community to help grow with the vision of the town.
The Cider Market Trends Report for 2017 estimates regional and local cider brands, rather than national ones, are driving the increase in sales of hard cider nationwide. In the past few years, sales of Virginia cider have increased by 52% to more than 416,000 cases in 2016.
It has exponentially grown quickly just in the last 2 to 4 years. And so I can see it growing. People, again, it's a fun, exciting business to be in, and you're creating something from a fruit that is delicious.
Reporting in Albemarle County, I'm Sherry McKinney.
Thank you, Sherry, for that report. Well, Virginia cattle producers are learning more about being advocates for animal agriculture. Bob Severa is with the American Angus Association, and he shares this story about the importance of communicating with consumers.
Consumers want to know more about their food, and producers have the voice to tell them. Joe and Robin Hampton take that responsibility to heart.
Early on, we realized that there was value to the industry for people like Robin and I to open up our operation and share with folks what we do every day.
The farmer says people have a lot of misconceptions about agriculture, with 99% no longer having a connection to where their food is grown.
Within about 2 hours of us is about 7 or 8 million people. And while Robin and I at times would rather live somewhere where there weren't so many people, you have to understand that puts us in a unique position in that we can share information about the agricultural community to people that don't see it on a daily basis.
Visitors leave with new opinions that are based on fact.
What Robin and I try to communicate is that the production of cattle is one of the most environmentally enhancing activities that we can have.
With full-time jobs and a herd of Angus cows to boot, the couple have welcomed chefs and moms, kids and media to walk in their pastures. No question is silly or stupid, but some can be frightening.
When school groups come out here, it's okay for the third grader to not understand where their food comes from, but the teachers and the parents don't know where the food's coming from. So that's why we think it's important that we open this place up. We're honest about what we do. We're proud of what we do. We think we're leaving this place in a good way.
Time is all it takes. The result of answering honest questions and being available outweighs any burden.
I don't think our story is unique. I think we're just uniquely positioned to share that story with a lot of people. While we will never be able to produce hundreds of bulls for the industry, we can share that information here.
That's an impact that's felt just as strong. And Back Creek Angus received the 2018 CAB Ambassador Award in September. I'm Bob Cervera.
Thank you, Bob, for that report. Well, poultry production is the leading sector of Virginia agriculture, but not all chickens are found on farms. Raising a few hens in the backyard has become somewhat popular in Virginia. Families, especially those with young children, like the benefits of backyard poultry flocks. Who could argue with fresh eggs every day, plus free fertilizer for your garden? But before you run out and purchase a few chicks and start building a hen house, you need to check with local authorities to make sure that backyard poultry is allowed in your area. That's according to subject matter expert Lisa Steele.
The very first thing you need to do is check with your town. Find out if you can have chickens, if there's a limit to how many you can have, if you can have roosters. Sometimes you need a permit for a coop. You might need to have the coop a certain number of feet away from your property lines, just all kinds of things like that.
Steele is the author of 3 books on the topic of backyard poultry and says having a small flock of hens is a good project for children.
It really is. I think, they're so small that for small kids, it's easier than like a goat or a cow or something. You know, they can fill feeders, they can fill waterers, they can collect eggs, of course. I had chickens as a kid, so yeah, it's definitely a good family pet kind of thing.
The term biosecurity is often used with commercial poultry flocks, but Steele says it's just as important with backyard birds.
I think something people don't realize about chickens that you don't find in another pet, like a cat or a dog or a bunny, is that there's a lot of infectious diseases that can pass from flock to flock. So if you do have a friend or neighbor who has chickens, you don't necessarily want to be visiting back and forth. You don't want to be swapping egg cartons or waterers or feeders, because what your flock has in it, they might be immune to, but if you bring it into their flock might have problems with it.
More information about raising backyard poultry can be found at Steele's website, fresheggsdaily.com. People can also read any of her 3 books or, of course, contact their local office of Virginia Cooperative Extension. People considering a backyard flock should also think about limiting their birds to hens. Roosters can be very loud, especially in a city neighborhood. Well, this week we visit a Virginia dairy farm to learn about trends we're seeing in the dairy industry. That conversation is coming up next during Ag Insights. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jeff Ishii. This is Virginia Farming, and we are on a Virginia dairy farm this week. We can't wait to tell you where we are and actually who we're talking with today about a very important topic. But first, I want to share with you some statistics we recently learned about the Virginia dairy industry. Number 1, the official beverage of Virginia is milk. It was so designated by the Virginia General Assembly in 1982. At the beginning of this year, Virginia had 586 dairy farms with 87,000 dairy cows. Virginia's dairy industry directly supports 16,000 jobs. That's a lot of people working because of the Virginia dairy industry. Milk is also Virginia's 3rd most valuable agricultural commodity, generating $478 million in cash receipts to farmers every year. And finally, the top 5 counties in Virginia for dairy production are currently Rockingham County at number 1, followed by Franklin County, Pittsylvania, Augusta, and Washington counties. So those are some statistics we thought we'd share with you concerning the Virginia dairy industry. And it's my pleasure now to welcome to the program Mr. Kevin Phillips with North Point Farms in Waynesboro, Virginia. Kevin and 3 of your brothers, I believe, operate this farm, and you're also the immediate past president of the Virginia State Dairymen's Association. Thank you for inviting us to the farm, Kevin.
Well, thank you. Welcome to North Point Farm. We started here operating in the late 1800s, so we've been here well over 100 years. There's 3 of my brothers with me, and then we're fortunate enough now to have 4 of the next generation that have come back here, and they are also employed full-time at the farm.
Well, Kevin, this is truly a family farm, and as you said, a multi-generational farm, and I think that's fairly typical of most of the dairy farms we see around the Commonwealth of Virginia. They're passed on from generation to generation, and like your family, they've been milking cows a long time.
Yes, that's the beauty of it. You get to work with your mom and dad, and then you do it yourself, and then you get to teach your children and see how they excel. And it's very delightful to see the different aspects each family member brings to an operation.
Well, you've been dairy farming all your life, Kevin, but this year, 2018, I know has been what some would call a tumultuous year. It's been a year that has not been the best for Virginia dairy farms. Bring us up to speed on where we are now as an industry here in Virginia.
Well, it's been a very interesting, very challenging year. Most everybody is either at or under the cost of production. So we're seeing some people exit. Others are just eating into equity to stay alive. The biggest problem is we're climbing a mountain, and we can't see over it right now. We don't know whether it's going to keep on going straight up. We don't know what it's going to look like when we hit the other side. And so the uncertainty of it makes it very challenging.
Uncertain, boy, it's a good word to use during these times. We recently contacted the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services office in Richmond, and they advised us that in the first 6 months of this calendar year, 2018, that we've lost 36 dairy farms around the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I thought about that, losing 36 dairy farms. That might not sound like a lot to some folks, but that is losing a dairy farm, one farm every 5 days. And that, in my personal opinion, that's a significant situation. Why are people electing to get out of the dairy sector?
Well, I guess the uncertainty of it. We do not know where we're going to land, and some of them that are getting out, I think, are using a different judgment. They're trying to get out before they eat up all their equity, so they have a little bit of money to live on. Others, we don't know nothing else. We've always been taught how to grow, how to produce, but we've never been taught how to exit. And that, to me, is going to be the next challenge, is for us to figure out how some of us are going to exit.
Well, exit the dairy sector.
Yes.
And I don't want to imply that these dairy farms are going out of business. They're simply having their permits for milking cows withdrawn, and ultimately we hope and we pray that they will go into another segment of Virginia agriculture, whether it be cattle, poultry, wine, grapes. There are a lot of opportunities in Virginia agriculture these days. Of the farmers that you're talking with, what do you think they're looking for? What's the next step?
They're looking for something or another that they can make a profit, not work 100 hours a week, and make a livelihood that's doing something good for their fellow men. So many things you do that we're not sure that is the best, but they're doing what they want to do to make everything good for the next generation and make a good living. The cost of health insurance right now is very prohibitive on a lot of dairy farms, and so there's a lot of people today that do not have health insurance because they can't afford it.
I want to go back to why some people are electing to get out of the dairy sector. I've heard a lot of different reasons: consolidation, consumer demand. Can you talk a little bit about consumer demand?
Well, in the Southeast, we've always been deficit of milk, but now we are doing a better job, taking better care of the cows, and so fluid milk consumption has drastically dropped. And a lot of that starts with the younger kids. And we have went to where we thought we could not feed any fat in the milk, whole milk, to kids in school. That's where we teach them how to drink milk, the nutrition value of it. And the last few years, the water, I call it white colored water, because it has no taste. And if you don't have something that tastes good, you're not going to consume it.
Kevin, do you think, and we're talking with Kevin Phillips, former immediate past president, Virginia State Dairymen's Association. We're here in Waynesboro, Virginia at North Point Farm. Do you think that the consumer is, do you think they're trying alternatives to milk? And the label might actually say milk, but it never came from a dairy animal. Do you think there's some of that may be having an impact?
Oh, absolutely. They've done a good job of advertising, but it's not as healthy as whole milk. And so social media has played a huge part. Whatever's on social media is the Bible. And we know that very few people understand what whole milk is. Whole milk is 3.5% butter fat. We have never been able to market it at 3.5% fat. If we could sell a lot.
Talk a little bit more about consumer demand for other dairy products. My understanding is that when it comes to yogurt and cheese, the demand in that segment is excellent.
Yes, they love the yogurt coming up now with the drinkable yogurt. Cheese has been just booming, and there's new artistic cheeses that you can make. Believe it or not, the biggest one is butter consumption. They have finally decided that the margarine is not good for you. So butter consumption is, I read an article, is up to where it was 25 years ago as far as consumption of butter. So we're doing good there, but the fluid end that we are focused on in the Southeast was always deficit of milk, so we never built butter and cheese plants. We are now actively in the state of Virginia working to get a butter or a cheese plant to locate to our areas.
So if we could bring in a big-time cheese manufacturing facility or Greek yogurt or something like that, that would be good for Virginia dairy farms?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Because we have maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 processors of fluid milk left in the state. Milk moves a lot. A lot of milk in our area goes to North Carolina because they bring milk out of Pennsylvania into Virginia. And Virginia itself probably uses about all the milk that we supply. But when you go up north and bring milk down, you domino it down, is what they say. Because when you get down to Florida right now, they are really deficit of milk because of the heat stress on cows.
Kevin, we've talked a lot about the first 6 months of 2018, and it has not been a good year so far for Virginia dairy producers. What do you foresee for the next 6 months?
We need a win in the dairy industry. Something or another to prick morale up. It's just like a baseball or a sports team that goes 0 for whatever. As soon as you get that first win, morale will pick up. That's what we need in the dairy industry, is a morale booster. We thought we was going to see that. The mover prices had started moving up in April and early May, but now they've declined right back down. And so I see more of the same for the next 6 months of the year. And again, we cannot see over top of the mountain. It's just like driving your kids down the road and they say, when are we going to get there, Dad? We don't know.
Don't know. Lack of control, and it's always been that situation from my understanding with the Virginia dairy industry. The Margin Protection Program, this is a federal program that was rolled out by the USDA and the federal government, I believe over a year ago, and then they recently revised it to supposedly make it more attractive and more beneficial to the dairy producers. What are you hearing from the farmers about the MPP, the Margin Protection Program?
Well, it's a program set up for a dairy that is basically 200 cows and smaller. It is designed to help them compete with the bigger dairies. It is, when it was first rolled out, it was a disaster. They revamped it, and it's a Band-Aid for the smaller producers, but it's, in my estimation, it's done went too long before we put a Band-Aid on. We done both bled to death. And so they come in the 2 Senate and the House bill, they're in conference right now. It didn't change it much. So again, it'll be a Band-Aid. It might help some of the small producers, but it's not a fix-all for sure.
Just a couple of minutes remaining in this segment of the television program, Kevin, but I wanted to ask your advice to your fellow dairy farmers. You've been a leader in the dairy industry for a number of years. This is a situation that I think most of them have never seen before. What would be your advice to those farmers?
Well, first of all, have faith in what you do. Sit down with the family, have a family conversation. Let them know where you're at. If you got younger kids, you just have to involve them in the finances and say, hey, this is where we're at. We owe X and we're worth X. Are you willing to lose more to hopefully make more? Or do we need to exit the dairy business before we lose our equity? And it is a challenge. There's no right or wrong answer. And you gotta have faith, and you got to take time. Don't work yourself to death. Mom and Dad, take time to be with your kids.
Take a vacation and go fishing every once in a while.
That's exactly right.
And then the phrase that you mentioned to me, it all boils down to risk management.
Yes.
You've got to manage that risk, and if the numbers don't work, they don't work.
That's right.
Thank you very much for talking with us and bringing us all up to date on 2018, a year in the Virginia dairy industry that has not been going well. We certainly hope and pray that our dairy farm families have a better second half of 2018. More in just a moment. Our pearl of wisdom this week comes from President Theodore Roosevelt, who once had this advice for farmers: do what you can with what you have where you are. Well, that does it for our show this week. Have a great week, everyone. I'm Jeff Ishii for Virginia Farming.
90 years ago, the Virginia Farm Bureau made our local farmers a promise to protect and preserve a way of life they work so hard to establish. We want to keep Virginia, Virginia. Anyone can be a Farm Bureau member, and there's a local Farm Bureau in every county. More information is at vafarmbureau.org.
Virginia soybean farmers are hard at work growing soybeans to produce products you use every day. Candles, soaps, even crayons can be made from soybeans. Remember, when you buy soy, you're helping to support American jobs, the economy, and our nation's energy security.